Coming up next on this special Vote 2014 edition of Arizona Horizon, we'll have highlights of the 3 general election congressional debates that we hosted here, along with our debates on Arizona ballot measures. A Vote 2014 special next on Arizona Horizon.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of 8, members of your Arizona PBS station. Thank you.
Good evening and welcome to this special Vote 2014 edition of Arizona Horizon. I'm Ted Simons. Tonight we take you back to our election coverage where we heard from candidates running in 3 congressional districts. And also tonight, a recap of debates on Arizona's 3 ballot measures. Our debates are conducted in a conversational format that's designed to highlight ideas, even as those ideas are questioned and at times challenged by opponents in a live TV setting. Here now are the best of Arizona Horizon's congressional and proposition debates. We've had tax cuts for years here in Arizona, and our jobless rate is lagging the national average. What's going on here?
Well, it's lagging the national average because Washington's got their foot on our throat, is what's going on.
Explain.
Well, look at what the EPA does to our businesses. Look at the coal mines. Look what's happening there. And Congresswoman Kirkpatrick talks about the Resolution Copper Mine, but Harry Reid won't move it off of his desk. So, I mean, at the end of the day, it's still Washington that steps on.
I'm sorry, you're completely wrong because, you know, it's your policies that businesses are looking at. And let me just outline those. You're opposed to immigration reform, comprehensive immigration reform.
That's never true.
You slammed through the House of Representatives the very discriminatory bill 1062, which almost cost us the Super Bowl. Well, and those gave Arizona a black eye. Yeah. And then you refused to provide the funding for our most vulnerable children and for education and building good schools. That's what businesses look at if they're going to come to Arizona. Yeah,
well, I think it's for someone to first say, yes, we're in trouble, and yet we have to have a balanced way of doing things, who has never balanced a budget in Washington. I mean, I don't think the president's brought one to the White House. I think they got one passed. When Ann Kirkpatrick was in the legislature or in the Congress the first time, if they wanted immigration reform, they had the House, they had the Senate, they had the White House. They could have passed everything they wanted, but they didn't. Our corporate tax rate is so abysmally high. We are driving businesses out of our country, out of our country. Why would you, Ted, come to Page, Arizona and invest there if you're thinking they're closing down 1/3 of that coal mine? 1/3. Why would you go to Winslow or Holbrook? Ann Kirkpatrick supports what the EPA does.
I do
she
not.
doesn't stand there and fight back on.
You are absolutely wrong about that.
Congresswoman, just last week you went ahead and voted.
Show.
Just last week.
Yes, let me talk about that bill
last week. Okay, good, because there's about 4 more.
That was a bill that was a composite of 11 pieces of legislation we had already passed out of the House. And there were some I agreed with and some I disagreed with. For example, one of the things I disagreed with is it completely eliminated any kind of environmental regulations. That goes too far. One of the things I did vote for was protecting coal mining jobs because this district has a coal mine. But it's about balancing the competing interests.
The idea of voting against or for a bill that is full of other things. How far do you go when you say someone's for or against individual things?
Well, then drop your own bill and say, hey, here's my bill to stop the EPA. That's not what's going on. What's going on is the EPA.
You missed the point. We already had voted on those.
Let him finish, please.
But you never dropped a bill before this one to say stop. Where's that bill? When you can go back to Washington and says, Mr. EPA, let's say you are going to clean up all our air. Instead of sitting there and dumping the bill on the Arizona citizen, why don't you go fund that? Ann Kirkpatrick,
why don't you go fund that? Not your
yeah,
words.
I'd love to, because you haven't passed any. You don't have any action.
No,
when you
of course
can.
I do. Of course I do. Let me talk about my record, because I have one of the most successful records of a member of Congress. So I had 7 bills in my first term that were passed into law. This term I've had 3 that are signed into law, and I'm in the minority. The first one was the VA Corps, which streamlined the veterans claims process. That was signed into law in December of last year. I talked about the Mountain Air bill that Mr. Gosar and I worked on together, which was signed into law in May of this year. And then most recently, we did the most comprehensive reform of the Veterans Administration since 1999. Done all of that work in a bipartisan way, reaching across the aisle and coming to consensus.
Last point on this. You have described Congresswoman Kirkpatrick's record in Congress as, quote, disastrous.
Yes, it is disastrous.
How?
I just explained, you have the EPA, she sits on the Veterans Committee, and she sits on transportation. Can anybody have believed growing up in this country that the VA would have collapsed like they did under her watch? I can't. But my point is that fixing problems after they've already happened is like the president's strategy that he never had. Oh, let's go in and let's do something now. So they're behind the cart, they're just reacting. They're not leading, they're reacting to something.
But Mr. Tobin, you slammed through the legislature this very discriminatory bill, Senate Bill 1062, that almost cost us the Super Bowl. Thank heavens the governor vetoed it.
Well, Aunt Kirkpatrick, you didn't say a word about that bill the year before when she vetoed it because the budget hadn't passed. And I agree that more debate should have happened on that bill.
Mr. Gallego has been around for 4 years supporting President Obama since he's been in the Arizona legislature. And during that time period, he hasn't said anything about the 2 million deportations that President Obama has accomplished.
Let's hear him say something now.
Well, you know that's false. I actually have been on radio shows where I have said that that is a bad policy. I have asked for a stop of the deportations. I have actually issued editorials both in the Huffington Post and other written places.
But you've only done that since you've been a candidate, Mr. Gallego. Be sincere with everybody.
No, that's not true.
You did not do that before.
I'm sorry, that's
while
not
I'm helping
true.
people in the jail.
You and I were actually in press
families,
conferences
Mr.
together
Gallego.
while I was actually a state house.
When I'm helping people
you
in
and I
the
were
jails
outside
and
of
helping
ICE together.
families.
Okay, hold on. We can't have you talking over.
Well, you and I were outside of ICE together asking for people
You only
to stop
showed
doing
up
it.
for a photo op. I was there to do the real work.
As I was saying, I was there. I have been demanded the deportation stopped. I did it even before there was even a congressional race. And look, I'm going to continue doing it. Fact is, I've asked for the president to stop these deportations and to give immediate relief to these families, and I'll continue doing that.
You mentioned, please.
It's not a crime to come into the United States in an airport with a tourist or a student visa and to stay longer than the term of that visa. It's not a crime. It's not even a misdemeanor. So it's not an illegal immigration. Only the people that actually walk across the border and don't enter at a legal border station, as I would allow and ask them to do, only those people have committed a small infraction. And even them are only subject to deportation.
It's
not
again,
a crime.
Again, critics will say any kind of path to citizenship equals amnesty.
Yeah, Frank Luntz, the Republican pollster, invented that whole concept back around 2004. He said, hey, you Republicans, run against the immigrants. Let's call them illegals. Don't say undocumented, which is true. Illegal is not true, but that's the Republican slogan, and we shouldn't use it.
The idea that, again, any kind of path to citizenship equals amnesty for those who are here unauthorized.
That is incorrect. What it equals is opportunity, an opportunity for business to be successful, opportunity for children to be successful and have security here, opportunity for business. But for the individual, it entails this: coming forth and taking biometrics, applying, passing civics tests, paying back taxes if that is necessary, Ted.
I have to stop you. I have to stop you because you initially said that you would work and the Republicans control the House and they should have their opportunity to put amendments. You realize that most of the people you would be dealing with consider any pathway to citizenship equaling amnesty.
Well, you see, if you don't have that discussion, in my profession, I'm used to going to court and you're the judge. You're going to listen to me, you're going to listen to Mr. Gallego and Mr. Cobb. That's called due process. And if we don't have that system in the House where committees have the opportunity to review these bills and vote, and then have a vote that reflects the interests of this country, then the system doesn't work. So the Senate bill must be heard. And that's the reason, because some folks don't want to allow that process to take place, why the bill is held up.
What is the best way to reform immigration?
Well, I don't think it's actually rocket science, Ted. We know the answer to the immigration reform crisis. Unfortunately, we haven't seen courage from Congress to enact the reform. There are three basic elements, I think, that have to happen for any immigration reform to be lasting and effective. First, we have to have a secure border. We have to know who's coming in and out of the country, and as a government, the government should be able to choose who gets to come in and who doesn't. So we've got to have that kind of security. Number two, we've got to reform our visa system to have it more market-based. Right now, we've got a system where the demand and the supply don't match up, and that's why we're facing some of the struggles we're facing economically. So we need a reform system so that we actually have enough of the workers coming in to do the work that can't be done by native-born Americans, but no more. And then third, we have to settle the status of those who are here already. Somewhere between 10 and 12 million people are here, some who came with legal status and overstayed, some who never had legal status. We've got to settle their status, not only for their futures, but for the security of our own country.
Folks in the House, Republicans in the House, they say what you're talking about is amnesty, no deal.
Well, it's not amnesty at all, and I'll tell you why. Because you want to have a tough but achievable path to citizenship for people. So for instance, Dreamers, these are the young people who came to this country as children through no choice of their own, have finished high school, some are in college, many want to serve in the military. They're Americans in all but paper. So let's give them a tough but achievable path to become full Americans so they can contribute back to the society that's already invested so much in them. We've got to have a reform system that allows folks to pay back taxes, learn English, pay a fine, get in line. I think the Senate bill, while not perfect, charts out a path that is tough but achievable.
What do you make of the immigration situation? How would you change it? What needs to be done?
Immigration was a state prerogative up until about 100 years ago when the federal government took it over. And that's one of the reasons why you see it so badly done now. It should be returned to the states to decide who can come into and out of their own government, their own borders. And it should be up to them to decide what the situations are. Most states were open, completely open bordered, or they chose that you had to have a sponsor. You would take responsibility for to ensure they had a job, a roof. They weren't going to be vagrants or dregs on the private welfare systems, the church welfare systems that existed at the time. So I would basically take away all immigration from the federal government. That eliminates all the problems you're having right now with the trespassing, the garbage dumps, the dying immigrants in the deserts trespassing on private property. They'd be coming through the public roads. And those people are really salt of the earth types. They're coming here to work, and we're basically putting their lives at risk when all they want to do is come and work for us.
If you were representing this district and the Senate bill, the immigration bill, were presented to you, lands on your desk, how would you vote?
I'd vote no.
Why?
Because I know whatever's in there is not going to be anything like an open border position that I take.
How would you vote on that Senate bill if you ever get a chance to vote on it?
Well, actually, we have a bill in the House, H.R. 15, that is very similar to the Senate bill, but what we did was we removed the portion of their security provisions and instead put in a bipartisan security provision sponsored by Representative McCall from South Texas. He's a Republican. He's the chair of the Homeland Security Committee. His security bill passed unanimously through committee, showing that both Republicans and Democrats support it. I think it's a smarter answer to the security question. It puts more money into our ports of entry, Customs and Border Patrol, more money into electronic surveillance, because we have a lot of boots on the ground. We always could use more.
It gives the citizens or the legislature and the governor the ability to opt out of spending money or using state resources on certain federal measures that they vote that they don't like.
Why is this necessary?
When you look at most federal laws that are passed, most of them need the state's or the county or the city's input or involvement in order to actually enforce them. Some of those things are bad for the state of Arizona. I think we've had a lot of debates over Obamacare, for example, in our own state. This gives the citizens a way of saying, look, this is certainly federal law, it trumps state law, but we don't have to spend our resources on it.
How do you see Prop 122, what it does, and why you think it's not necessary?
Well, first of all, it is another really bad idea referred by the Arizona legislature, and they have a history of referring measures to the ballot and passing measures that are unconstitutional. This is another one of those. The state legislature does not have the authority to decide what is and what is not constitutional. And that's really the crux of the problem with this. They already have the authority to decide what is funded and what is not funded, but they can't decide that the Endangered Species Act, the Clean Air Act, the Clean Water Act, Religious Freedom Act, any of those important federal laws that are broadly supported by the American people and the people of Arizona. The legislature doesn't get to decide, no, those are unconstitutional, and by the way, we are not going to cooperate. It's not just about spending money, it's about cooperating and implementing those important laws.
The idea that the legislature, it's a nice idea, but the legislature can't do this.
Well, first of all, Sandy is fundamentally wrong about that it's the legislature that decides whether something's constitutional or not. The U.S. Supreme Court decides whether something is constitutional or not. It says in the bill, the way the language is, we cannot do something that's unconstitutional. It restricts us from doing something that's unconstitutional, but it certainly doesn't it does not put that as a restriction on us that it has to be constitutional or unconstitutional for us to actually implement Prop 122. If it isn't right for Arizona, we don't have to spend the money on it. It isn't even a debate about whether something's constitutional.
Well, first
so
of all, I disagree with that. Obviously, that's not what it says. It does give the legislature this authority, although I would agree that it is contrary to the U.S. Constitution and the separation of powers that is in the U.S. Constitution. The thing about this is that I think a lot of people don't understand. The legislature tries to restrict programs from being implemented all the time. A good example is Pima County. They have the Sonoran Desert Conservation Plan. It's a plan to implement the Endangered Species Act provisions. And Pima County voters have voted to fund that program and implement it. The legislature under this could say, no, we think it's unconstitutional, and we say no state funding, no resources, no cooperation relative to the Endangered Species Act. Pima County couldn't implement it.
Respond?
My response is the legislature on its own could not do that, and Sandy knows that. The only it would have to be the legislature and the governor together, or the people. So there is a political process. And by the way, if the legislature wanted to do what Sandy's talking about, they could do that tomorrow. They don't need, if they were in session, they don't need Prop 122 to do what she's describing.
What exactly does Prop 303 call for, and why do you think it's necessary?
Well, Ted, I think it's necessary because terminally ill patients in Arizona need to have access to experimental drugs that haven't made it through the full FDA process. They should have a right to try to save their own lives, to save their own families.
Do they not already have that right? Is that procedure not already in place on the federal level?
They do have procedures, but they're not available to many people. A very few are able to access those drugs when they need them. These things happen overnight, like it did to my son.
And I want to get to your son in a second, that story, but again, Prop 303, why do you think it's not necessary?
So to start off with, as we look across the existing process, the FDA's EAP process, the extended access process, is in place, does work, and very rarely do they turn someone down. And that process is designed to both protect patients and to ensure that the ongoing clinical trials continue in a way that makes it clear that those drugs can get to patients if they are safe and effective as quickly as possible. Every time we do a one-off, we potentially slow down the process for many patients.
The idea, though, as we heard, that maybe not every Arizonan has access to the FDA approval, to the federal approval system, and doesn't seem to be like that these folks have that option. Is that a valid argument?
Unfortunately, that's not the case. If you look at the process today, a physician, and it's always the physician is the key with the patient. The physician is working with the patient, the physician identifies an opportunity, the physician goes to the drug company and makes a request for access to the drug or the medical device that might help the patient. At that point today, the physician and the drug company go to the FDA and request an EAP. So that process already exists.
Yes, and it'll be even better with Prop 303.
How?
It allows a patient, along with their physician and the drug manufacturer to decide whether that's the right drug for that child or that adult, whomever it is, with an informed decision to be able to save their life.
For the critics who would say that it's dangerous to treat with drugs or treatment without enough study, getting past the first phase only, there's a reason why it takes time for FDA approval. You say?
Too long. Too many years, hundreds of millions of dollars. Those drugs are not available when we need them. Our son was 11 years old when he was diagnosed with osteosarcoma. We had to make quick decisions, and my husband and I did the research, did the homework, traveled to Mexico City, talked to physicians in Israel and England and Germany and Italy about this drug that was not available to our son in the United States, something that could potentially save his life.
For parents like this, what's the harm if it's a situation in which traditional chemotherapy in this case or traditional treatments just aren't working? They've been tried, they haven't worked. What's wrong with trying something that may not have full FDA approval?
The challenge that we're looking at is that in Paulina's case, and it was a great outcome, and I'm so happy for you.
Thank you.
You had the financial wherewithal, you had the resources to make those choices.
And I'm here for those children who don't have the financial resources, who need those drugs now and in Arizona. I'm not here for politics, I'm not here for polls, I'm not getting paid to be here.
Right.
I'm here for those children who don't have options, who can't travel. And
But
I can't help it, I get emotional about this.
And I get emotional about it too,
Yes.
because when we look at those children, okay, this piece of policy, and my objection is not to helping patients get the best care.
But it is.
No,
people need
let
these
me
drugs
finish
right
just
away.
like I let
can't
you
wait 10
finish.
years.
I agree that we need to be able to speed up the process. But this law does not provide for who pays for these drugs. It does not provide who pays for the medical care. So your family had the resources to be able to do what you did.
We made those decisions.
And that's great. Some people
Yes.
don't have the
You're
option to
correct.
make those decisions.
But they should have the right to try. They should have that chance.
They
should
should
have some
also
hope.
have the ability to know that those drugs are safe and effective.
And they
because
can.
Because what we are looking at is that we are creating an alternate pathway that is a dead end. Because the drug companies, the
How
hospitals...
dare you say dead end?
You know what?
We went to another country for
I know
a drug
you did.
for our son.
And you
And you're
could.
telling me it was a dead end?
No, what I'm saying is this piece of public policy is creating a pathway where the people that you're being asked to go to are still governed by and responsible under federal law. And by preempting federal law, you put them in a position where they are not able to help the patient the way they would like to.
Patients can make informed decisions with their physician, with the drug manufacturer.
Is that basically it? Is this exactly what it calls for? $11,000 a year?
That's it, Ted. It's a simple question. The voters are going to be asked to answer on November 4th at the general election whether they wish to raise the salaries that we pay our state legislators from $24,000 a year to $35,000 a year.
Are per diem allowances, are they changed at all?
That's not changed. The per diem allowances are completely unrelated. Those are set by the legislature, and they're not going to change at all.
All right, let's get into this thing. Why do lawmakers need an $11,000 a year raise?
Well, first let's talk about how hard our legislature works. I mean, this isn't the old days when the legislature met every other session for 100 days or less and left back to their jobs. These days, the legislature's in session for several months. When they're in session, it's basically a full-time job. And when they're not in session, they're serving the needs of their constituents. They're at events in the community. So it's very difficult for someone to serve in the Arizona legislature and carry on full-time employment outside of the legislature. So it's not that we should be paying them an exorbitant salary. This is a reasonable sum of money to compensate them for the expenses that they incur while serving their constituents.
Why not give lawmakers a raise?
Well, I think it's just a matter of the expense to the state and whether we're going to get any value in return for the expense, and I just don't see the value there. And if you multiply out the 90 legislators by the 11,000, you get 990,000, plus the pensions, you end up getting about 1.2 million. And I think that's just going to be a lot better spent on access, on public safety, what have you.
No raise since 1998 for state lawmakers. Is that a good thing?
I'm not here to say that's a good thing or a bad thing. I mean, the people have consistently voted it down, so I don't think we haven't given them the opportunity to vote for it.
Yeah, the idea that this is not necessarily all that popular with the populace, is that taken into consideration?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because I think it's important to point out that this is, I don't think raise is the appropriate term to describe what is being, the voters are being asked to vote on. Last time the salary was increased was in 1998. It was to $24,000 a year. If you take inflation into consideration, we're at less than $35,000 a year. So we've actually been decreasing their salary. So we are. I think the more appropriate term is a restoration, I suppose, or of what we should be paying them or what the voters agreed to pay them in 1998.
But is this the best time, considering the economy, considering what critics say are folks that haven't had a raise in a long time, maybe even longer than is it the best time to be asking for this?
Well, absolutely. The average single wage earner in Arizona makes $41,000, so we're not paying them even that rate. And the economy is improving. So last time this question was on the ballot was 4 years ago. It was in 2008 at the time when the economy was doing very badly, and it was understandable that the voters wouldn't support that. But the most recent economic forecast showed that we have weathered the storm, and a full recovery is on the horizon. So this absolutely is the time to consider giving our legislators a raise.
Back to the inflation adjustment. Some will say that if you don't adjust for inflation since 1998, you're basically giving a pay cut every year.
Well, you know, it's been up to the voters, and they voted no consistently, so that if they wanted to build in an inflationary adjustment, they could have done that in the statute.
The idea that you get what you pay for. Some folks are saying you're not paying very much here, and you were saying that you don't think it's quite worth it. Might it be worth it if you start paying more?
No, and I really don't buy the if you get what you pay for argument. I think that most of the problem that people have with the legislators is their policy positions, and I just don't see any particular person, if we raise salaries, they're going to start now agreeing with more of the legislators. I don't think that you're going to get suddenly more ethical people or what have you. I mean, we have fine legislators right now, other than people disagreeing with their policy.
And that is it for now. I'm Ted Simons. Thank you so much for joining us on this special Vote 2014 edition of Arizona Horizon. You have a great evening.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of 8, members of your Arizona PBS station. Thank you.